Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and do some more slug testing. And today we've got another really interesting combo that I'm definitely looking forward to testing and seeing how good it actually can do. We have ran these shells once before in the past through a different setup with some pretty middle of the road results if I'm remembering correctly. But this gun we've got today has proven itself to be a very impressive slug gun. So with the price that these shells are, this combination better work out pretty nicely. We're going to run it for accuracy, and I've got the gel blocks out here to take a shot into as well, and we'll see what kind of terminal performance we actually get. So hopefully this combination works out the way I think it has the potential to, but I think we're also going to find out real quick if that's true or if these are kind of just an overpriced loading that you've got other way better shells sitting right next to it on the same store shelf. So today we've brought out some of these Barnes VOR-TX Sabot slug loads. These ones are a 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 437 grain, all copper projectile, and 437.5 is 1 ounce. So they're essentially just a 1 ounce slug, moving at 1450 feet per second. You can see there on the front of the box what they look like. That reminds me a lot of some of the Barnes muzzleloader bullets. It's a completely copper bullet that is supposed to expand out really large like that. We'll see if that's actually true as well today. But these things aren't exactly cheap neither. They have 2 3/4 and 3-inch variations. I think the 2 3/4 is like 24 bucks for a box of 5, and the 3-inch is like $28 or something like that. So mid $20 price range, you're looking at about $5 a shell. Not cheap for sure, but are they actually worth it or not? We'll see how they do, at least through a proven, nice performing gun combination today. As for our setup, I brought out the Savage 212. This is a bolt action 12 gauge with a 22-inch barrel on it. It's fully rifled. Up on top, I've got a VOR-TX Crossfire HD 3-9x40, and it is a Savage that has the AccuTrigger in it as well. So this is essentially a bolt action rifle that's just chambered for a 12 gauge shell. Very nice gun here. We've seen sub MOA at 100 yards out of this gun pretty consistently, and if you get a pretty middle of the road slug, you can usually get sub 2 inches at 100 very easily. So if those Barnes loads don't shoot well through this, then they're probably just not going to be really worth it. So for today's test, we're going to run everything the same as usual. I've got 2 different targets set up downrange. So we're going to shoot one 3-shot group at 50 yards and another 3-shot group at 100 yards and see what kind of accuracy results we actually can get out of them. And then I've got some ballistics gel set up on the table over here as well that we'll take a shot into and see the terminal performance. Are these 2 groups of 3 shots an ideal scientific test? Probably not. I'd want to shoot a few more to really get a good idea on how they do, but this will at least tell us if they're decent or if they're not at all. So first, accuracy result, we'll start at 50, move to 100, and see how they do. All right, so quick look through the chrono numbers before we look at our targets. We have a boss claim of 1450. We have a 22-inch barrel on this 212. And I think we were getting close to being in the ballpark here. If there's any gun that you would imagine should be seeing factory claim velocities, it was probably this one. But we had a high of 1486, a low of 1417. That gave us an average of 1445. So 5 feet per second off of their boss claim. So we're definitely right in the ballpark where we should be, with an extreme spread of 69 and a standard deviation of 24. So at an average of 1445, here is your muzzle energy for a 437 grain projectile. So pretty much just call it 1 ounce, just like a typical rifled slug would be most of the time anyway. That's clearly going to be perfectly fine for whatever you'd want to use these for, but I think we saw some pretty nice looking accuracy out of them as well. All right, so here we have both of our targets side by side. The 50-yard target on the left, the 100-yard target on the right. This isn't an amazing camera angle, but I wanted to at least show you guys both targets side by side so you can get a little bit of an idea on what the groups look like in comparison, but we'll get up close looks at them here in just a second. But overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing as far as the accuracy results here. This is kind of the area that I was hoping to be in. So immediately, they definitely are not terrible. First up, we have our 50-yard target. Obviously, these are not the slugs that gun is zeroed for, which is something I have found to be a very prominent thing with this 212 in particular. Every different slug load we've ever ran through it has impacted noticeably different locations. So if you've got a 212 or probably a 220 as well, zero with the slug you want to hunt with, and test with it especially, because if you change loads, your point of impact will probably shift pretty heavily. But although this does kind of look like two bullet holes, we do have all three of our shots right here. The bottom bullet hole is actually two that are pretty much overlapping each other, with one just a little bit higher above it. I think this higher up shot may have been the first shot we took. I felt great about all the trigger pulls, although the very first shot did surprise me just a little bit. So who knows, we could have potentially stacked all three of them in the same hole, but that is still a perfectly adequate group right there. Two overlapping each other and one almost touching for a 0.87-inch group. I mean, I'll call that pretty decent all day long. Sub 1 inch at 50 yards should not be too hard to do with that gun, and we're there. Now moving over to our 100-yard target, obviously we still favored a little bit low and to the right, just like we did at 50 yards. So at least it's very consistent. It's impacting the same place, pretty much right where I thought it would, little low and to the right. But we've got all three bullet holes right here. There's one that's overlapping the black, one just to the right of it, and one down here where you see that little tear in the paper. Obviously, we're not up here in the black, so it's a little bit more tricky to see, but all three bullet holes are right here. Not quite touching, but definitely very nice. And it ended up giving us right at 1.23 inches. And that is from center to center on the farthest two bullet holes across. So the bottom to the top left, center of each bullet hole. So a little over an inch, right about 1.25 inches. I mean, technically it's just a hair above MOA, but 1.25 inch groups at 100 yards from a slug gun, I don't think any of us can complain about that. And I mean, it's right in there with what I would expect this gun to do with a good slug loading. We've seen a little better from the Federal freight trains out of them, but still this hair over an inch, it'll do anything you want it to do out to 100 yards, no question about it. So nice accuracy results for a slug gun for sure. But now, what do they have behind them as far as terminal performance goes? We're now sitting down here at the two gel blocks I've got. These are 16-inch blocks of 10% clear ballistics gel. We do have one small track in the front of the first one, but it's in the back of the block and it'll be well out of our way for what we're doing. These are the blocks we've been using all summer long, so they're starting to get a little cloudy, although that's perfect for these slug and rifle loads that are really going to tear the gel up, because we're still going to be able to see everything we need to see. So as far as distance goes, considering how our accuracy results went, how those are not the slug that I'm zeroed with, and how we have the range set up behind me here on where my table actually is, I'm going to walk it back to about 50 yards. I think it's like 48 yards or something about like that. Is that a 100-yard distance? No, but it's kind of mid-range area, and it will be a little more realistic than just point blanking it at a few yards away from the block. So we should be able to get a nice centered up shot and really see what these do in a more hunting oriented application. They are a copper bullet. Sometimes they can be finicky if you don't have enough velocity behind them and stuff. So let's take our shot into these gel blocks and see what we get, because if they work as intended, it should be pretty nasty looking. All right, that round gave us 1448 through the chrono, so we can utilize that to calculate some muzzle energies. And now as far as the gel goes, we see some pretty gnarly wound channels up here in the front. That kind of smaller one back up top in the back is not what we're looking at. We're looking at this big one right in the center of the block. You see, we came in, lost our little nose cone piece. It opened up very quickly in the block and carried that almost to the end of the first 16-inch block. And we kept on going, and exited out of the block down here. It went in pretty center and kind of curved towards the camera here and out of the block. But as far as penetration goes, I mean, we were all the way down here into the 28-inch range before it came out of the side. And the permanent track runs all the way up to kind of almost shy of 15 inches there in the block. So that is a gnarly channel. We had a nice, perfectly centered up hit right there, and you can see how much that opened up immediately. So it did exactly what it was supposed to do, but you can also follow the track down the top of the block here as well. We're looking at the one on the right. It went in straight and just curved more and more until it exited the side down there. So unfortunate that we did not capture that projectile, but I believe I have one more of these shells left. So I'm going to try it again. I really want to capture one of these and recover it. Will we exit out of the clear end of the block? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, but I think we can capture it. So same thing, just shy of 50 yards. Take another shot, even if it gets into some of these other tracks a little bit. We know what the wound track looks like now. I just want to catch one of these projectiles if we can. All right, got the chronograph moved back up here in the shade because things are starting to get hot. That's why the chronograph is showing errors sometimes because we're in the shade now. But that shell gave us 1476, so we can utilize that to calculate our energy. But as far as the gel goes, we actually captured it this time, right down here, pretty much where the first one exited. It keeps launching the blocks over on the table, just about tipping the whole piece of plywood down and stuff, but we've got it. And good thing that was my last shell as well, and I really wanted to capture this. Penetration-wise, out to just shy of 28 with a little bit of spring back there. Big opened up, expanded projectile. The wound track on this one is a little harder to see because it's kind of down and back in the block, but it's a pretty well carbon copy of what we saw on the first shot. Entered right next to each other here. You can see those two both opened up extremely quick into a gnarly wound track, and can't see much on the backside here because of how dirty the bottom of the block is. But we captured our little blue nose cone piece again there, and the bullet carried all the way out into the second block. So terminal performance on these looks pretty devastating. Penetration wise, you've got more than enough to do the job. That is a gnarly wound tract up there in the front. Carries it to at least 14-15 inches before it just starts slowing down to its final penetration resting place. So gel blocks look fantastic. We'll pull that slug out, measure it, weigh it, and see how it really looks. So here we have that projectile in here on the bench now, so we can get a real good look at everything that's going on, as well as the two little blue nose cone pieces that we pulled from the gel, and what one of the Sabots looks like up here. Very standard stuff for a Sabot. They all looked pretty well identical, so nothing really to remark about there. It clearly did its job just fine. But as far as what we recovered from the gel, that is one gnarly projectile, and it opened up as far as it physically could before it started snapping petals and stuff. It's got a nice thick base piece to it that's completely solid copper, and those petals peeled all the way back to a straight up flat nose point on it now. So very impressive expansion. That's as far as you can physically get out of that for sure. As far as expansion, we're at 0.919, so a little shy of an inch of total diameter there on the expansion front. Comparing that to the unexpanded base portion, which is at 0.585. I believe these are advertised as a 58 caliber slug as well, so that appears to be accurate. Now, as far as the weight goes, these are supposed to be 437 grains. That's sitting right at 434.6. Let's see if we add one of these little nose cone pieces in. Does that get us our weight? We're now at 434.8. So I believe they are probably including that, I would imagine, because we definitely did not lose any weight off of the slug. Either which way, we are right at about 1 ounce. 1 ounce is 437.5. So we can utilize that to calculate some energy numbers off of it as well. So after doing the energy calculations, with this slug being about 438 grains, including the nose cone, that's 2,119 foot-pounds of muzzle energy for this particular shot that we took. It'll obviously be a little bit less out there at 40, 50, 60 yards, so on, but they are devastating performers overall. They're accurate, they tear the gel block up, they expand perfectly, so you can't ask for much better performance than what that gave you. All right, well, what do we think about the performance here on these Barnes VOR-TX slugs? I'm liking what I'm seeing overall. Accuracy, really nice. You're looking at just a hair over an inch at 100 yards for a slug gun. There's not a lot you can't do with that. And I'm sure you could probably run that to 150 or so and still be fine. I would highly suggest testing it first, but you could probably do it as well. As far as terminal performance goes, I mean, we see the nasty wound tracks in the gel. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. They expand about as far as they can possibly expand to. So terminal performance is there as well. Now price, they're still on average $5-ish a shell, so it's not cheap. Now obviously, you're probably only going to be taking one shot at one deer, ideally, if you put the bullet where it needs to go anyway. And you may use a couple of them in the season, so it's kind of going to be a little bit of personal preference with the price. They're not the cheapest Sabot loading out there, that's for sure. There are options that are quite a bit less per shell than what these are that will still also be more than good enough. But some people may live in states or hunt in areas, counties, zones, whatever, where it's a lead-free, non-toxic area only, and this is what they have to use, is something like this. In which case, the performance is there. Now, when we tested them in my 870, I think the accuracy was okay, but clearly, if you got a little bit better dedicated slug gun type of setup like this 212 is, you might be a little bit better in the accuracy department than an 870. So it's going to be your own personal choice. Do you need these to do the job? No. But would they if you wanted to run them or had to? Absolutely. So let me know your thoughts down below. Is this about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Barnes VOR-TX slugs? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this a loading that you would ever use? Or are they a little bit kind of out of your price range? Or is this something that is exactly what you're looking for? Or you're in one of those areas where this is the kind of loading you have to run? And maybe what other shells do you want to see us test like this for accuracy in the gel, whatever the case is? Let me know all your thoughts down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it. But I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.